Hello class, today we are going to be looking at the pronouns I and en. I'm going to divide this into two videos and we're going to start with the pronoun I. So let's get started. Pronoun I is something that replaces a thing or an object that is after a preposition. And you may be asking, well, okay, what is a preposition? Here are a couple of common ones. We've got dans, sur, avec, sous, under, devant, in front, chez, at the home of, derrière, behind, en, à côté de, and à. Notice I've made à red here because you might be thinking right now, wait, we've already done something with the preposition à and replacing it with a pronoun. You would be totally right. Sometimes we use the à and the indirect object and we replace it with me, te, nous, vous, lui, leur, etc. And the way this is different is that before we were replacing à and a person or a living thing. Remember we used the question à qui, or sometimes pour qui, to figure out if we were dealing with an indirect object. Well, here we're not going to be using à qui, we're going to be using à quoi. It's got to be a thing, it can't be a person, it can't be alive. So when it's a thing, we use I. When it's a person, we can use one of those pronouns we saw before. So here's our first example. Je vais à Paris. So we've got our à here, and then we've got Paris. Definitely not a person, it's a place. So we can replace this with j'y vais. Alright, so we placed the I before the verb aller, j'y vais. Because I is considered a vowel, well, we have the je, so we have to get rid of that I and put the apostrophe before the Y. Elle habite à côté de l'école. So she lives next to school. Here we have à côté de, that's our pronoun. And so we can take out both the à côté de and the object after it, l'école, and we can replace it with I, and we'll get elle y habite. She lives there. Oops. Oh no. I have to use my French one so it doesn't correct it. Elle y habite. There you have it. Alright, going on. Sammy est devant l'arbre. We've got our devant. That's our preposition. L'arbre is the object. We're going to replace all of them and give it a shot. What do you think? Sammy, or we could just say il, I, est. A is the verb. We put the I before it. Now, give it a shot yourself. Here are a couple of sentences. They all have objects in them. And try to figure out what is the preposition, what's the object, replace them both, and then use the I and rewrite the sentence. If you want to pause the video, give it a shot, and then I'll throw up some of the answers in a minute. Alright, so let's go ahead. We've got nous parlons derrière l'école. And what we're replacing is the derrière, behind, and l'école. No, nous y parlons. Alright, vous répondez aux questions. You respond to the question. We've got the à here, as O. It's not a person, it's questions. So we'll do nous y, oh non, pardon, vous y répondez. So you get you answer them. Je suis dans la classe de français. So what have we got here? Well, we've got dans as our preposition. La classe de français, that whole thing is the object, the class of French, or the French class. So we replace the whole thing with with j'y suis. And finally, we've got il ne regarde pas sous la table. So here we've got a negative. Remember that the negative is the ne from the negative will always go before any any pronoun. The ne will go before any program like I or lui or le, la, and then you'll have the verb and the pas after the verb. So, what are we replacing? Well, we've got sous, under, la table, so there's our preposition and our object, and replace them with I. Il n'y, again we have to do the N apostrophe Y, regarde pas. Il n'y regarde pas. Alright. Je veux jouer au volley. So here's a little something slightly different. We have two verbs here. We've got veut and jouer. It's not like the passé composé where both of those verbs go together to make one tense. They're actually two separate verbs that are working together. One, the veut, is conjugated. The other, jouer, is unconjugated. We call that infinitive. So when you have two verbs and one is not conjugated, place the pronoun before the infinitive, that unconjugated verb, and after the conjugated verb. So let's take a look at what this would look like. Je veux jouer au volley. We're going to say je veux, because we're going to use that first conjugated verb. Then we'll add the pronoun au volley, so we'll replace it with I. Je veux y jouer. Je veux y jouer. And I just added this in here so that you wouldn't get confused if you saw something like this. It's the same sentence, but this time it's asking a question. So we've got veux-tu jouer au volley? So it's a question, and because it's a question, we flipped through inversion the verb and the subject. Veux-tu jouer au volley? And if we wanted to rewrite that question, but we already had the context for volley, we would say veux-tu, keep that the way it is, and then you just still throw the I before that second verb. Veux-tu y jouer? Now, passé composé. Passé composé also involves two verbs, but this time both those verbs are really just one. They're sort of acting together to make one tense. And so the first verb is just the helper verb. It's only there to help that second one. So what we would do in the past tense is place the pronoun before the helper verb in the passé composé. Elles ont cherché dans leur chambre, so they looked in their room. So we've got our preposition here and our object here. We've got our passé composé ont cherché, which we leave as is, put everything before, even that helper, and we get elles y ont cherché. Elles y ont cherché. Alright, and we've got another verb here. Elles aiment travailler dans leur chambre. So this looks kind of similar, but what is different here? Can you tell? This one is not the passé composé. We've got they like in the present tense, and then we've got travailler in the infinitive, unconjugated. So in this one, it would be different. What we would have is elles aiment. We use that first verb that's conjugated first, then we put our pronoun E before that unconjugated or infinitive verb. Elles aiment y travailler. Alright, here's another one. Ils sont allés en France. We use the E a lot with places, especially with the verb aller. You go to places, and here we're going to use it to replace en and France. So give it a shot. Hopefully you notice this is the passé composé. We've got these two verbs, and the E is going to go before that helper. Ils y sont allés. Alright, attention, watch out. Let's take a look at these two. Elle répond au téléphone. Elle répond à sa mère. So, both of these look very similar. We're using the same subject and verb. We both have a form of a, but they're actually going to be quite different. Why is that? Well, hopefully you're noticing one is regarding a telephone. She's answering the telephone. The other one has to do with her mom, a person. So remember, it's going to be different whether you've got a plus a person or a plus an object. So for this first one, since it's an object, we can use y. Elle y répond. This second one, because it's a person, we're going to have to use an indirect object. Elle, oops, her mom, her, so elle lui répond. Alright. We already saw one statement with the ne, just a reminder. The negatives, with the negatives, you put the pronoun after the ne. So, ils jouent aux échecs. They play chess. Whoops. So, hold on. Aux échecs. Doesn't look like they're playing chess. They're playing checkers. Ils jouent aux dames. Checkers. So, non. Il. You gotta have your ne first. And because y is a vowel, we're going to do apostrophe. Il n'y joue pas. Il n'y joue pas. Good. So here are a couple more examples. Why don't you try these yourselves? Take a minute, pause the video, give them a shot, bring them into class, get them checked over. Alright, and then for the final slide, just to remind you, you've probably seen E before. Allons-y is a common expression we use in French. Let's go. Alright, and because we're not saying where we're going, we put the E there to say, it's kind of like saying, let's go there. We don't know where there is. Same thing with vas-y, do it. So hopefully you've seen E before, and hopefully you understand it better now. Please watch the video as many times as you want. Come ask me questions if you have any. Thank you.